Hey, welcome back to the YouTube live event, How to Launch and Scale Your Perfect Online Business. We are going straight into workshop 2 for the day in week 3. We've got June Lowe here, who is absolutely fantastic, and she has been for years at live video. How do you get over live video? It's such an issue. It's so scary.
Thanks, Brian, for having me in the event today. All right. So actually getting to live sounds very scary for me when I first started out, but I actually forced myself to go on live during the pandemic because I wanted to try something new and I want to challenge myself. So I was like, hey, you know what? I see a lot of people doing live so easily. They feel like so comfortable in front of the camera, and I wanted to do that. So I was too bored at home. So I
Too
decided to
bored.
start the first ever live. Yeah, it's like you are only staying in the room, I guess, in my house. And then I think because I'm from Malaysia, so we are one of the very first country that go into lockdown mode. So that's where I started the first ever live.
Wow. So why did you pick, like, obviously, what did you do before the pandemic that led you to, hey, let's just jump on a Facebook Live? Like, what was that journey like?
Okay, everyone have something like a threshold that force you to make a change. I think the boredom kind of like is my threshold where I was like too bored, and if you literally have nothing to do at home, and I think the first ever thing is that I want to challenge myself to do something I've never done before.
Mm.
So that's where I think during the pandemic I have reached the threshold. So I decided to, you know what, just do for fun. But when I first started the first ever video, I was so nervous and so afraid. I didn't do it on my face profile with my friends and family because I always think like, how would people view me and then how would people judge me? I think it's one of the very first fear that everyone will experience. So I actually opened up a second Facebook profile, and I was like adding a bunch of people whom I don't know, and non-Malaysian, no friends and no family members at all. And I hit the live button, and that's where I started the first video then.
Wow. Okay. So we spoke about this in the last one with, with Michael, like in terms of mindset, like that fear. So Michael spoke about how he used to handle it because he used to have stage fright, obviously through even when he was acting and stuff like that. So you had basically stage fright as well. That fear of going live, like, how did you get over that? How did you press that go live button and not cry?
Not cry. You know what? I don't know whether you heard about this author, Mel Robbins. So she has this rule that is called 5 second rule. I think it's a book. So basically, the 5 seconds before you hit the live button is the scariest moment that you ever think about. But then what you need to do is just follow Nike tagline, just do it. Because ultimately when you're forcing yourself to do it without thinking much about the negative stuff, you trick your brain that you have to do it. So I think one of the things that you are able to overcome is to just do it without overthinking. And that's why I decided to open a second Facebook profile to do it, is because when I press the live button, those people, they don't know about me, right? So
Mm.
technically, whatever shit that I say, they, even though they laugh at me, but then I wouldn't care. Like, I don't know you, so why should I care what you think, right? So that's why I think one of the very important mindset is that you need to remember to stop overthinking. And a lot of time it's just your mind telling you not to do it. But let's think about that. When was the last time that you felt embarrassed about an event and your friend actually remembered that event? Maybe you overtrip during at the stage, or you fall down. Only you yourself remember. So I think most of the time it's the mind that is doing the talking. That's why
Mm.
when you use the Mel Robbins 5 second rule, you just give yourself 5 seconds. Like before you want to press a dreaded live button, just count from five, four, three, two, one. Press the button without thinking and just keep talking until maybe the first video that you've done, you only can talk about 2 minutes. I remember the first video that I've done is like 3 minutes. That's the max I can talk without feeling the awkward silence. And then
Mm.
after that, every single day you just keep on practicing, because practice makes perfect. And then you can, and then right now I can talk nonstop for almost 2.5 hours without actually having a scream.
Nice.
So I
So
think that's about it.
that was a big thing. Like, obviously, why did you pick live over pre-recorded?
Wow, that's a very fantastic question. So I don't know about you, Brian, but then I did before I did the after I did the live video, I tried pre-recorded video, and it was the worst idea ever because when it comes to pre-recorded, I don't know, the human mind tends to go for perfection. I was like recording one sentence. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Let's re-record. And then after that, I ended up spending maybe 4 hours time to record a 30 minutes video, which is wasting my time. But because of
Mm.
the perfectionist inside me that goes, so that's why whenever you want to practice your public speaking, your presentation skill, or you literally want to do more TikToks, Reels, or IG stories, you know what? Just go for using live to do your practice, because when you hit the live button, it's super awkward that you suddenly stop, right? So that's where I picked the Facebook Live.
Yeah, and that makes sense because I was doing the same. Like when I pre-record, it was like I'd be like, oh, stop. And when I used to work back with Ian, obviously you'll remember Ian.
Yeah.
Ian was a nightmare for it because he had a background in video and film. He'd be like, no, that wasn't right. Hit the stop button. Trying to record a dual
Yeah.
VSL was a pain because Ian was like, no, stop, stop, stop. No, that wasn't right. Stop, stop, stop. I was like, oh my God. And it does, like, you strive for that perfection and you have that issue with, oh, I didn't say that right. Oh, let's press pause. Whereas now, even like when I do my pre-records for YouTube, I will just keep talking and I'll just
Yeah.
like revert the sentence, just keep going and going and going, and I won't press like pause until I've finished the video and then go, right, okay, go chop all those little bits out
Yes.
to make it a little bit more smoother. But yeah, that's a big thing with live, is like it's possibly like the most vulnerable place as a
Mm.
video marketer, because there is no press pause. Like it's like we're going for the next like 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and like we can't edit like whatever we say. It's going to be out on YouTube and that's it. It's like, so how do you get over like that? Oh, like, should I say that? How do I say that? Do I talk too much? Do I not? Like, what's all like that about? Like, how do you deal with it?
I think the first tip that you can do is like, the first moment that you hit live, you feel very uncomfortable when you're facing something that don't move, meaning your camera lens. Like literally right now, I'm watching at my camera lens. So you'll feel really awkward. But then the second thing, what you can improve is that you need to remind yourself that you are talking to a person behind the camera lens. So essentially, you are just talking to a friend that you don't see exist because it is a lens, right? So when you remind yourself that you're talking to a friend, or maybe easier, um, you're talking to your child, maybe a 10-year younger self, all right, you just give advice to the younger self, because when you actually reframe your mind to that, it makes it easier for you to keep talking.
Mm.
And then usually before I start a live, I will just give myself about 5 minutes to prepare for the live. So in that 5 minutes, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down, okay, I like the rule of three. So
Mm.
everything is three secrets or three tips or three mistakes that I'm going to share in that the next live that I'm going to do, right? So I will just write down an open line. So usually my open line will be, hey guys, my name is June because I was born in June. I get so used to this intro. After the intro, I will tell my audience what I'm going to share with you guys today. So I'm just going to say like, today I'm going to share with you 3 tips on how to go live easier, right? And then in the content, I will then share specifically 3 tips. So before I go live, I'll prepare a A4 paper. It can be like a small paper, a big paper, it doesn't matter. And then I'll just write down the 3 tips I'm going to share. And I'm not going to go deep into describing the tips, but more likely every single tip, I will then relate it back to a story of mine, because it's easier for you to tell a story rather than, to talk a lot of theories, right? So that's why I'll always have a tip plus a story. And after that, we'll move on to next tip number 2, and the story number 2, and tip number 3, and story number 3, and follow up with a closing, like a summary. So when I follow this structure, it's very easy, no matter whether you're doing a live or you're actually doing a sales pitch or you're doing a public speaking on an offline event.
Ah, right. I like that, obviously. So obviously you've got your intro, your hook, obviously to keep
Yeah.
people interested. Then obviously, so yours is, hey, my name's June because I was born in June. And then you move into, this is what I'm going to share. So the overview. and then you break down the 3 tips, and then from those 3 tips, it's like, right, okay, a story in each one. And I know, for instance, like when you read like the Russell Brunson books, like trafficseekers.com, every lesson has a story.
Yeah.
And it's literally because stories have been teaching lessons since we learned to communicate all those hundreds and thousands of years ago. Um, so how do you flow from the tip to the story to the new tip, and like how do you not waffle in that story section?
Okay, it really depends on my day. So if let's say there's a very funny story to tell, I will probably talk for about 2 to 3 minutes. But most importantly is that how those stories relate back to the tip. So usually my tip will be like this. Like, oh, tip number one, if let's say you want to go live, you have to stop overthinking. That's the
Hmm.
statement. That's the tip, right? And after that, I will just tell, okay, why I said like you need to stop overthinking is because from my experience, when you stop overthinking, then you use the 5 second Mel Robin rules. That's where I will start talking. And then sometimes, if let's say yourself, you don't have much story to tell. So let's think about: do you have story of your friends to tell, or maybe stories of your client before your client engage you? How do they feel? After they engage you, how do they feel? So sometimes when telling other people's story, it's easier. That's where I will use that as well. Because when you do that, when you tell your client story, the before and after, essentially you are selling yourself in a very, very subtle way, which is like a testimonial for yourself without sounding like you're selling yourself too much. Yeah.
Yeah, so as you say, I like that. It's a subtle way of selling yourself that shows that expertise. Like in terms of storytelling and the lessons in storytelling, how powerful they can be. I always remember it was in, I think it was either in Dan Henry's book or
Okay.
Digital Millionaire or in one of his videos, and he basically said like, there's always a cabinet, isn't it, under the sink, and it's always got the cleaner stuff in. Yeah, it's never got anything. It's always the cleaner stuff. So he used to go in that cabinet under the sink, and his dad would always be like, Dan, don't go in that. You'll hurt yourself. Obviously, it's not safe. Da, da, da. And it would be like a daily occurrence. And then Dan's dad, sat him down one day. He was like, and I don't remember the kid's name. He's like, oh, Dan, do you ever remember Jeffrey from down the road? He was like, no. He's like, you won't, will you? He was like, he died a couple of years
Uh-huh.
before you were born. And like, how did he die, Dad? Oh, well, he was messing around in that cabinet under the sink, and he accidentally touched something, put it in his mouth, and it killed him. Dan said he never went in that sink, that cupboard ever again. Like lesson achieved, and literally through that story, like that is obviously telling a kid someone's died because he's done something probably a little bit much, but um, it was a story that taught him the lesson that obviously he managed to write in a book like 30 years later. The stories stick. And I love how like your emphasis was on the story to get that story out. It might not have to be your story or like your friend's story. Like obviously I've just told a story about Dan Henry. I've never met the guy, but I remember the story obviously because it made me laugh, which then emphasizes this point. So it just shows like how easy it is to grab stories to teach lessons. Now, if you look at kids' books, it's exactly the same. Like
Yeah.
each book is a lesson. They're trying to teach you something within that book. There's a journey, there's an outcome, and there's a lesson to be learned. And we forget that sometimes in marketing, don't we? Like how powerful they are.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like stories are really powerful way for you to express yourself because a lot of times it's just like we're teaching kids, right? If let's say we tell them, hey, don't touch that, don't do this, they wouldn't understand up until to the point that we let them experience or we let them experience our journey emotionally.
Hmm.
That's where through the story is so powerful because that is emotion. That's where we are able to treat it as a learning lesson, and then our audience will also tend to see us as an authority figure when the story that we share with them actually can touch their hearts. So that's why I think you're right, Brian. Story is very powerful.
You mentioned obviously emotion and getting emotion out in your videos. How do you like? Sometimes that's something I struggle with is portraying that emotion. Like, how do you get that? Because that's what sells, isn't it? Emotion sells.
Yeah.
How do you continually on your live video when you've got so much to think about, as well as not being able to go and edit? How do you get tie that emotion in for it to like, right, okay, we connect?
I think the one thing, the easiest emotion to display is to share your failure that you meet along the way. Okay, because I felt like a lot of us, when we go through the journey, whether it's a personal journey to achieve a goal, specific goal, or maybe throughout your entrepreneurship, you always feel lonely and you always feel like, I think I sucked in this event. Like I've been preparing for this event for such a long time, but then I suck in it. Or you share those failure, those, because every failure, it's not really failure. It's actually about the feedback about what works and what didn't work. And
Mm,
our audience can actually learn a lot about what we did, right? So a lot of people, they feel very uncomfortable when they want to share like their failure, because they thought like, hey, people believe in them because they are always perfect.
mm,
But actually, the imperfection sells, because it brings us down to, hey, you know what? Our audience will just feel like June is also just a human being. Brian is also just a human being. Sometimes we make mistakes, but the mistakes that we tell our audience actually kind of build an authority in their mind, because they know that we also face the problem that they are facing right now. We are on the same level. It's just that maybe we are more advanced. So that's where I felt like the easiest emotion to display is just to share the mistakes that you made along the way, and then what are the solutions that you try to, what approach that you have changed in order to counter those mistakes. So I always write about, I always share about the mistakes that I make along the way, as well as not only that, I even send out emails. So to share that out, because some people they prefer to read it. Some people they prefer to watch it. So yeah, I do that often.
okay, so you bring your vulnerability into your lives, obviously, as you say, like pulling out mistakes and stuff like that. That makes you relatable. Then, obviously, from that emotion and that relatability, how do you then build that authority on top of that? Like, yes, I made that mistake. Yes, I felt like this, but now, for instance, like now you should buy from me because, like, how do you switch from vulnerable mistake to authoritative figure?
All right. So every live that I do will always come with, if let's say it's a mistakes video or it's a mistakes post, it will always come with a solution, because you do not want to be those kind of person who always talk about mistakes, but then you didn't tell people what have you tried to solve that problem. So I think you don't have to purposely go and trying to sell, whether you want to sell or not, but rather when you talk about your mistakes and your solution, but the solution you don't tell people how to, but it's more about what did you just an overview of what you have changed, what kind of direction you have changed. And if let's say, and then in that video post, you can just say, if let's say you want to know more, check out this new blog post that I've written, or check out this new course that I'm just preparing. So I always feel like if let's say you're selling courses, always do a lot of behind the scenes kind of video to
Mm.
show your audience, because all these tiny posts will make up to the authority. There wouldn't be, it wouldn't make sense for you to directly sell in a mistakes post, because you need a lot of nurturing in front. So it really depends on how deep that you go.
Okay, right, got it. So in terms of then, obviously, so we've got mistakes plus solution increases the authoritative figure, and we've got the vulnerability to connect the emotion. Like, how would you how would you structure a series of lives to get to that end goal? Which, for instance, would be to sell like your amazing challenge. Like, how would you structure those lives in order to get that ultimate goal, obviously, of selling that course?
Yeah, sure. That's a very great question, Brian. So, if let's say you see from a point of view of relearning, right, there are a few things that you can always cover in like a series of life. The first one, you can always talk about mindset, because if let's say your audience, it can be mindset of a certain topic. So let's say I'm doing Facebook Live, we're actually starting an amazing challenge, right? You can always talk about what is the mindset behind Facebook Live. What is the mindset behind the video marketing? What kind of right mindset that you should have? What kind of wrong mindset that you should get rid of? Talk about mindset. And the second thing, always talk about mistakes that you have made. Because mistakes that we made is to teach people on how to avoid them, right? So when you share about your mistakes, they will know that you have been through this journey. So subconsciously, they will know that, hey, they wanted to learn from you because you have been through the journey they want to be through. And a third way, or the third video that I always do will be talking about frequently asked questions. So this frequently asked question, if let's say you have been in your industry for some time and also you have been serving clients, your clients will ask you those top 5, top 3 FAQ. So if let's say you can answer them and point out to your audience that, hey, I know that you are going to ask me this question. So therefore, before you ask me that question, I'm going to answer them. And if let's say you answer them perfectly, you are literally speaking to themselves before they even ask for it, right? They will actually see you as an authority figure. Then the next thing is that usually I will only do the selling after the 5th video. Because you talk about mindset, you talk about mistakes to avoid, you talk about FAQ, then maybe at the 4th video, we can give them some actionable tips. Actionable tips that they can, okay, when you talk about actionable tips, you don't have to give them a bunch of solution that is so complicated. Okay, I always focusing on small wins because ultimately your audience needs to experience that, hey, actually doing that is so simple when it comes to Jun's teaching, when it comes to Brian teaching. Brian and Jun has broken down the steps into so easily learned manner. When they are able to experience that kind of wins throughout just a very simple tips that you give, that's where they will feel like, hey, I think I'm ready to learn from them. I'm ready to learn from Brian. I'm ready to learn from Jun. That's where only at the 5th video you can do hard selling or soft selling. So it really depends on you.
Okay, so you do it in a. Would you do it in a 5 series, or would you do it in like? So when you launch your offers, etc., would you do it in a 5-part live series, or would you extend it to 10 days? Like, how long would you make that launch of lives to complement your offer?
I think it really depends on what kind of event they are doing. And so for me, myself, I always make sure that the audience not only watch the training, because watching the training is free, but they must take actions. So for an action base, it can be something like a challenge because when it's through our challenge, people take actions and then they are emotionally invested. So I would say for a challenge, it should be minimum 7 days. I wouldn't go for 30 days because at the end of 30 days, a lot of people give up in the middle. That will be
Yeah.
maybe on 15th day, they give up, and then you don't have a chance to actually show what's your offer to them. So to me, I would say minimum 7 days, but provided that your audience actually taking actions on the challenge.
Okay, so you've got your challenge, obviously, which gets you. So that's like a low ticket offer, isn't it? So you've got your lives, which is
Yes.
your free content. Then you move into a low ticket offer. So your live promotion will be like 5 videos, etc. Then you'll move into your challenge, which is a low ticket offer, which will be like 7 to 15 days max. And then that gets them emotionally invested, time invested. And then from there, it's then obviously selling something a little bit more higher ticket.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, perfect. And in terms of like, the question was, right. So going live and social media, like the post, the posts don't last forever. Like the posts don't last long in the feed, etc. How do you increase the lifespan of a live?
All right, that's a very good question, Brian. So basically, you need to be very strategic on, let's say, today, if let's say you're starting out, don't worry, don't think too much about video views because if let's say you're just starting out video marketing, just starting out doing videos, and you think about too much about these video views, you will stop doing live. Because ultimately, you will need to gain a certain of traction, then only you think about the strategy to increase video views. So the first thing is always, once you have done video, let's say the platform that you pick is in Facebook or the platform you pick is in YouTube. Always do cross promotion, especially in your email list. So this is what I always do. Because using the live, it's where we always test contents, right? Because at the very beginning stage, you may not know what kind of content that your audience love, right? So that's why you need to test different set of different contents. Sometimes you share about your story, sometimes you share about tips and tricks, and sometimes you share about mistakes that you make in a certain industry. So after you test the content, you found a golden one, and you see that, hey, this video get a lot of views and get a lot of comments, start getting more comments than the other video. That's where I'll pick those video to be promoted to my email list. So this is what I do. And the second thing is that you can always re-bump up your video posts. So how to re-bump up is that having a conversation with your friends in the comment section. So let's say someone say, oh yeah, nice one, nice video there. So you can actually reply to them by asking a question. Wow, thanks for telling me this is a nice one. So it's really great. So how are you there? How is the weather there? If let's say your friend is from the New York, how is the weather in New York? Because you tag your friend have to have the conversation with you, right? So essentially that will actually increase the kind of engagement for your video views. So, and also another thing that I would do is that if you have time, you can always engage in your Facebook feeds 15 minutes before you go live, because essentially these tell Facebook to kind of like activate the algorithm to show your video to more people. And the last one is definitely share it to your story. You can always share your video that you've done maybe 1 month ago, reshare it to your Facebook story, and Facebook story, it makes people to kind of like bring it to the recency. So these are the few tips that I can share.
Nice. Okay, so obviously we're focusing like obviously on the short, like the I call them like the short term marketing platforms like Facebook, Instagram, like so obviously when you go live on there, you can then use the comment section to boost up the engagement. For me, it was always like get the reply, wait an hour, reply,
Yeah.
wait for the next comment, wait an hour. So then that continually keeps that going throughout the day, and that can last for days, to be fair. And then obviously use your email list to push people to a live or to a thing, like to remind them of the next one. Use your Facebook stories to go, hey, did you catch yesterday's live or last week's live about this? And using those to keep things popular and keep things in people's minds. Like for instance, obviously from my point of view, like you came onto our talk show last year or the year before,
Yeah,
the
last year
Mastery
I
Talk
did.
Show. And that was in a Facebook group. And what we've done, obviously, you'll notice this time, obviously, with the Passive Buddies podcast, it is on like Spotify, Apple, and it's on YouTube. It's not actually on Facebook whatsoever. And my reason for that is like within YouTube, obviously, because of the search based side of things, it can always get more views on that element, obviously. So when I've gone live, obviously, when I was picking this event and creating this event, I was like, right, what platform do I want to go live on? And I was like, I want to go on YouTube because of like this exact video. I won't have to do anything because I've then put the tags to I've optimized the video. This video can still help people in 5 years' time without me having to push it, without me having to change anything. It'll
Totally
just
agree.
yeah, because it's a great video, obviously, so it'll be able to continue to give people that lifespan and that ability in that video. So using those Facebook platforms and the Instagram platforms, obviously, they're great, but you do have to keep trying to drive traffic back to it. So there's a little bit of work to it, but there's a purpose in what June's doing. So she like linking day one, linking day two, back and go, hey, did you catch yesterday's video? If not, pause, go watch that one, come back, and those type of things to keep flooding those views. From the lives, obviously, like getting like how do you get more views to your lives? Obviously, we spoke about the cross pollination, but initially going out and when you kickstart your live journey, which I 100% agree, you need to do. You need to go live. You need to learn. Like me and Ian used to go live once a week on the talk show. I go live sporadically now, and obviously I've got this event every Friday. So you do need to go live. Like, how did you, when you decided, right, let's start pushing something, promoting something, how did you initially get views to your lives when you first started?
Wow, that's a great question. So I think there's a rule of reciprocity when it comes to social media. So when you give people comment, people will check out, wow, who is this June leaving me a comment? And then they will saw that, oh, June done some video. So usually at the first video or the first 10 videos that you do, nobody cares. Like seriously, nobody cares. But when you appear so frequently on their Facebook profile and June keep leaving comments at their, maybe liking their posts or commenting on their posts, there will be a day, trust me, there'll be a day that the audience will feel like your new Facebook friend that you added will feel like, I want to know what June is doing. Because of curiosity, she has been leaving me comments and she has been giving me likes, but She has been doing video as well. I see her every day. So let's get onto it. So I think at first, if let's say you're really doing in a very stranger environment, you want to add more friends and to actually leave them comments and leave them likes, reactions on their posts. That's the first method. And the second method that I use is that join Facebook groups where you yourself your interest is there. For example, I use a bunch of different software for my business, so I always join a lot of different Facebook groups for those software. So whenever I learn some tips and tricks for the particular software, or whenever I learn some tips and tricks based on the niche, I will then share posts, right? I really write a long, valuable post that I know is going to help people. I put in those groups. So when I put in those groups, I get attention because I genuinely help people with that, right? That's why people will be like, wow, let's jump on. Who is this June? Keep sharing content. And the content you share is really valuable. That's why people will jump on your Facebook profile. They will start checking your live video. And trust me, when you're first starting out, you would expect 0 comments, 0 like, and that is very normal because if let's say you're watching this, maybe you're watching it silently without me and Brand knowing. You have been watching us for some time, but then you don't even leave a like, right? You don't even leave a comment, right? So that's the reality. When you think about when was the last time that you leave a like and comment for other people while you're secretly watching for the video, that's what you need to expect. You may have 100 people watching your content, but then only 2 of them leave a comment. So that's pretty normal. So that's how I get started.
Yeah, so obviously one thing that I think you picked up on really nice there is like the relax on the vanity metrics. Like the likes, the comments. Yes, obviously it's great and it helps boost your like video views, etc. But as you say, like relax on it. It's okay when you first get started. It's gonna happen. You need to power through and just keep going in that respect. Now, obviously, you've grown your brand through. Ironically, you kickstarted because you were bored. And now you've grown into an influencer, obviously, who can help people with live video marketing. Why do you think it's so important to have video marketing in your influencer, like social media? And why do you feel like it's important to be an influencer to sell your products?
Okay, because if let's say you don't do that, you don't put yourself out there, your audience or your clients you always get this question, June, can you charge me cheaper? I can get it somewhere else cheaper. Imagine that you always rely on maybe, I don't know, written posts, written content. Your audience will always feel like you're not doing enough because they can get it somewhere else cheaper. But when you start doing video, you are literally someone who cannot be duplicated away. Someone with a really great content, with a written format, I can copy and paste. Your competitor can copy and paste and use a bunch of different software to rephrase them so easily nowadays, right? But imagine that you did a fantastic video training. You do live video every single day, or you just do video content every single day. Someone saw you. They are interested to work with you is not because of the content and the solution, because pretty much you can get a lot of different solutions in YouTube, right? But rather, the person want to work with you because they like your energy. They feel like your energy level and how you work, the value is the same, right? So people get to know you personally better when it's through video. You know who am I as a person, you know my values or what I value the most. But through written posts, people don't know that because it could be some other VA, virtual assistant, that around the other globe write that post, right? So that's why I think like video is essential. It doesn't have to be live video. It can be stories, it can be reels, it can be anything that you feel comfortable with. But eventually, if let's say you are a service provider, you wouldn't want to quote your client every single day on the same stuff, right? Those standard answer, how to use a certain text. But rather, those items are those that you can pre-recorded, put it in the membership, because those are the standard answer. And if you can't even get through to face the camera to do a video, that would be very hard for you, because you realize that every single day when you jump on call with client, you need to teach the same thing every single time. So I feel like video marketing and a video journey is a thing that you must go through if let's say you're solopreneurs or you work in a really small teams.
I think obviously you're absolutely right. Obviously, in terms of like written copy, you've got AI softwares that can write copy for you. I use them. Obviously, it speeds the dream up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you've got VAs who obviously then do like the writing or do the connecting or the engagement, and 99% of people will sit at that level, and they'll sit at that level because they are not comfortable like with putting themselves out there. They don't really want to go above and beyond, which is what every business owner should be doing in terms of above and beyond for marketing, above and beyond for sales, for operations, fulfillment, all of these things. Like as a business owner, these are things that you need to get used to. You need to get used to being uncomfortable. You need to be thinking long term instead of short term. And then by doing video straight away, you are above 99% of people in your industry,
You're right.
because people won't go on video. People are so scared of it. And yes, it's scary when you first start. June admitted she was scared when she started. I've admitted all the way through this YouTube journey, like this YouTube like live event, that I was scared when I first started putting videos out there. I stuttered like a crazy person. And the typical Scouse thing, like I was constantly doing it. Sound like Steven Gerrard, but it's just that thing. Like, if you can get yourself to a position where you go, fuck it, let's go, get yourself onto video, consistently do it over a period of time, like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12, you will outlast everybody else in your market. You'll be that 1% because you are still here. Now, obviously, when we spoke about before, like June, you came on our talk show last year or the year before in the Marketing Mastery talk show, back when that was a thing. Like the people that I interviewed back then, obviously myself and Ian, like some of them aren't around anymore, like whatsoever.
Really?
Yeah, and it's weird. It's like, oh my god, and it was through stuff like this, like not getting on video enough, not trying to improve their video, like not being consistent and not pushing themselves out of the comfort zone. Like I seen a pretty cool video, like I think it was from Russell the other day, part of his webinar. It was like 5 million people have started a business this year, and
5 million?
yeah, across, I think that was just America. 5 million people have started a business this year, and like 99% of them are gonna fail because they're thinking short term, because they're not pushing out. They're just trying to put a little bit of effort here, put a little bit of effort there, and it doesn't really go anywhere. So they obviously go back to the day job. But for instance, and you are a perfect example of this. Obviously, you started in the pandemic, and you have been consistent as hell. So when obviously I put this event together, I was like, right, who do I want? I was like, June. I was like, June has been here for years. Obviously, like, she started in the pandemic, like, and she's still here. Obviously, we're well out of the pandemic now, and she's still here. She's still producing video content. She's still doing the stuff that she told me she was doing 2 years ago, and it's still working. So it was like, right, that consistency is obviously, it's built you up to that authority. If I wanted someone to talk about live video marketing, I was like, get June. And it's that simple. So you're seen as that authority because that consistency around your live marketing, which I think has just been absolutely insane. Like, how have you continued to get ideas consistently for your live videos over like nearly a 3-year period?
I think the easiest is to ask your audience about it. So sometimes, because I own a Facebook group, so sometimes when I run out of ideas, there will be 2 things I'll look at. So the first thing I'll be like, okay, today, what kind of funny story that I encountered in my daily life? Because when you're able to treat your audience just like friends, and there is something maybe happened in the morning with your husband or with your spouse, with children, that is really funny, I will share it out. And every personal story that I share will always come with a lesson. I remember there was one time that I shared, I don't know whether this is a video or a post, I shared about my personal story. I said, this is what my ex-boyfriend taught me. That is my headline of the video, and that's my headline of the post. And everybody in my audience, they know, they'll be like, oh, June, are you okay? Like, what happened? Like, you guys broke up or what? Like, I mean, seeing him giving you flowers every month, so what happened? But then when they read through the story itself, they'll be like, oh, that guy who is my ex-boyfriend is now my husband. And the entire blog post that I want to talk about is that my husband, my ex-boyfriend back then, consistently sent me flower every single month. like for, I don't know, 80 months, 80 plus months as of now, every single month. That's the reason that he become my husband, right? So same thing goes back to you. If let's say you're a service provider, you're a coach, okay, you've got a potential lead that you want to work with. That guy, that lady doesn't want to work with you yet. But then how consistent you are at doing that, eventually turning your cold audience to warm audience, and from your warm audience to paying clients. That's how consistent you are. And if let's say you want to talk about consistency, you want to be one person selling to so many people at every single day, the easiest way, link it back to video, because only through video you're able to scale yourself, and not only scaling yourself, duplicate yourself, but scaling your energy, your enthusiasm. Me and Brian can't be so energetic all the time, like 24 hours for 7 days, right? But this is the reason that video works. So I always think about personal story, like what I shared with you, Brian, just now, and you guys. Link back your personal think in your daily life and link it back to a lesson. That's number one. The second thing that I would do, because I have a Facebook group, I have my own tribe, I will always do a posting to ask my tribe about it. To say, hey, I'm really running out of ideas to talk about. What you guys want to know, tell me. So when you ask your audience what they want to know, they give you the answer, then you get plenty of ideas, because sometimes they tell you things that you have never thought before. Right? So, and the third thing, you can, if let's say you don't have a Facebook group, how about email lists? How about asking your friends and family members? So these are always the things that you can look into.
Absolutely love that. And do you know what? Like that ex-boyfriend headline was absolutely incredible. It's like that. Obviously, I was like, ex-boyfriend. I was like, I didn't even know she had an ex-boyfriend. I was like, right. And then obviously you linked it back. I was like, and the question here is, how the hell did you get so good at hooks? Because that is like, if you can't hook anybody, people are never going to watch your stuff. Like, so video marketing is like that first 3 seconds. How do you get good at hooks to the point of view? It was like, I didn't even see that coming. That was such a great little snippet of a story. But how did you get so good at hooks?
I think by watching other people's videos that you get like, wow, if let's say when you're watching other people's videos, you feel like that's so good. So why not think about, for that particular headline, for that particular hook, is there anything in your personal life that you can also use that hook as well? I think the more that you watch, the more that you do, right? The more that it can be video posts, it can be written posts. The more that you do, you kind of get the kind of muscles. I would say that these are just like a muscle. We are training your humor muscle, or you're training your curiosity muscle. So just do it, and then you will get used to it.
Oh, absolutely love that. And you're right, aren't you? It's like, obviously the going on live, like obviously if we were recording this at the start of our journey, this live would be so different, because obviously like how comfortable we are now and where we started to where we are, like it's just a muscle. It's that repetitiveness of jumping on a video, looking directly at the camera, having that conversation, having that relationship, like all of these things. It's gonna take time and practice. And as you say, that consistency is going to be the one thing that keeps you going. What do you think about personality and how it shows up on camera and how you get that personality across?
I think if let's say you're starting out, really just remember that the person behind the lens want to know you as a person. You don't have to pretend that you're someone else, right? Because when you are trying to pretend that you're someone else, you feel so dreaded. You don't feel like going live, because you kind of like need to be an actor or actress, because you're not just not acting yourself, right? So I always think about show your okay, how are you going to act when it's your friends and family? That's how you're going to behave in front of the camera. So what kind of story that you feel it's okay to tell your close friend about it? And if let's say you're open to it, just tell the camera about it, because eventually your audience want to know you as a real person, not like a person that you design like a character. So that's where like myself, I because I love a lot of different characters, like I love Stitch. So that's why in the beginning of my live video, I was like, you know what, I want to create a hoax. So I was like, let's put a Stitch behind every of my video. Sometimes I'll put a Stitch, maybe wear a cap or something, and then I was just trying to see that moment where someone notices. So at the end of the day, I realized that a lot of people notice how I arrange all of my soft toys, and they felt like that is part of me. And I'm so lucky that some of my friends from the States and also from the UK, they sent me little Stitch toy from all over the world. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So after that's how they feel like that's my personality, because that is the real me. I love those things. So that's why I shared it out. And don't be afraid to be the you that you always want to show, because eventually this is how it works. You want to build your own tribe, right?
Mm.
You want to attract your own tribe. So you have to start sharing content of what you genuinely love and interested. I love reading books, about non-fiction books about how to improve my personal lifestyle. I share tips that I learned in the books, share it out. And then who will I attract? I will then attract those people who is interested in reading books, same author as me as well. Right? So when you are able to attract the similar tribes that you felt like your personality is very near to each other, that's where you can start to think, okay, is there anything that I can monetize out of my content based on my interests? So that's where you can transit from, start sharing out content to transit to think about how you can monetize out of your content. If you didn't do it out of your interest, based on your interest, you'll feel like it's a very taxing job that you need to do every single day because you're pretending that you're someone else. So yeah, that's my tips for that.
Absolutely love it. Now we are coming to the end, June, and it's a case of like everybody who's been like watching live or replay now know that live video marketing is quite essential, whether you put it in a story mode, whether you go live on Facebook, whether you go live on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of these different things. Like, it's a key component of, well, separating yourself out from the rest of the pack. If you want to turn yourself from a red ocean to a blue ocean, you have to stand out in these situations by doing lives and doing video. Like, how can you help them? What's the next steps? If people go, June, I want to go live, I want to be as cool as you with a Stitch in the corner, or like a Spyro the Dragon, or anything cool like that, like, where do they go and what do they do?
So what I've been doing is that we have done since I don't know which year, since 2021 June. I've started this challenge. It's a movement. It's called 7-Day Amazing Video Challenge. So basically, I have coached more than 200 students graduated from this program, from 0 videos to 7 videos in a week. So if let's say you're interested, you can sign up at our Amazing Video Challenge. We have the next season, which is season 13th, on 1st of November.
Wow. Okay, cool. So, guys, that link will be in the first YouTube link in the description. Go ahead and pick this up. What a transformation to get away from, I can't press that live button, to having 7 videos up in 7 days that are like, yes, like steam train, let's go. I think that's absolutely incredible because it's so actionable. And with it being like, I remember you saying like your first video was like 2 minutes, 3 minutes long. That across obviously 7 days, like, you're getting out there, you're breaking those barriers, you're expanding that muscle, and I think that's amazing, June. So guys, go ahead and click that link in the first link in the YouTube description. It'll be down there, and go ahead and take that challenge. It starts obviously when you're watching this live and replay. It starts in November. If you're catching this after November, that would have been season 13. So 100%. There will be more seasons, so definitely still click that link, because June has been around for years, crushing these lives. June, do you have any final thoughts before we go? Anything left in the tank that you feel like they need to know?
I felt like if you happen to catch this event by Brian and watch this specific video that we had together with Brian, this is a sign. This is a sign for you that you have been waiting for years, for months, that you need to start action right away. So just do it. Stop overthinking. And this is a sign that you have been looking for.
Absolutely love it. As I said, guys, it is a sign. You do need to be consistent. You do need to do live video marketing, and you do need to click that link in the description below. I'll see you on the next one.